You know that feeling when someone makes an obviously terrible decision? You get the clams casino at the wrong restaurant and you just know it's not a good idea. You warn them, but they just wouldn't listen. Today, that someone is MAGA voters. And the terrible decision is everything about Donald Trump's policies. This is going to be the most brutal I told you so moment in political history. This is not about gloating. This will be terrible. There is nothing to gloat about. Elections have consequences, they often tell us, and they absolutely do. And we talked about the Washington Post poll earlier, showing that most Americans disagree with all of Donald Trump's major policy points, but it doesn't really matter because he still won. If you don't understand the policies you were voting for, you can't be surprised when they come back to bite you. But when they do, remember that we told you so. Let's go through some of it. Tax cuts for the rich. Trump's 2017 tax law was sold as this massive tax relief for hardworking Americans. Trump bragged it's even bigger and better and more awesome than Reagan's tax cuts. But the people that really benefited were the billionaires and the corporations and people with certain business structures such that they got the qualified business income deduction. MAGA voters got the equivalent of a soggy coupon from Chick-fil-A, while the ultra wealthy flew off to their private islands with their private jets on which they got beautiful tax deductions. Those tax cuts that Trump plans to double down on in his next term drive up the deficit. How do we know? Because it's mathematically obvious and because it happened in 2017. And Republicans will use it as an excuse to say, look at this deficit. We need to cut Social Security. We need to cut Medicare, which we're going to talk about later or tomorrow. Your retirement savings are what's going to take a hit because of the very tax plan that they voted for, which will drive up the deficit and be used to justify cutting the social programs. How long are people going to have to work as a result of that? I don't know. That gets us to Social Security. And Aaron Rupar wrote a great article about this, and it's something that we've been discussing and we're going to continue discussing. Remember, of course, the China tariffs. They were going to bring back American manufacturing. Instead, we saw that that didn't happen during Donald Trump's first term. It's not going to happen during the second term. And instead, what those tariffs and tariffs on Canada and tariffs on Mexico are going to do is give us higher prices on washing machines, on groceries, on eggs, the famous eggs. Once again, the vote for America first they thought they were making is going to be an inflation first vote. Trump also campaigned on repeal and replace Obamacare. But spoiler, he managed only the partial repeal by gutting the individual mandate. Medicaid expansions were gutted. Rural hospitals were damaged or closed at record rates. And what will happen if Trump gets his way? Now, he only has concepts of a plan. He's had 9 years to make a plan. We were supposedly 2 weeks away from the plan in August 2020. The concepts were very good as of the June debate. Okay, I don't know if he's going to get it done, but if he does, and you live statistically in a red state and you need an ER, you might need to drive 100 miles. And of course, as is always the case, because infrastructure is better in blue states, because healthcare is better in blue states, because education is better in blue states, and on and on and on. It is the very red state voters that said, I love this crap, that are going to be the ones that suffer. The same people who love to chant, make America great again and safe again and healthy again, that whole thing, they will slowly realize that their version of greatness, if they believe it's going to be presented by Trump, is going to include groceries that are more expensive, reduced Social Security benefits, maybe. They're still figuring out whether they want to do that. Diminished health care, but they will not admit that they got duped. A handful of them will, right? We interviewed 4 or 5 different people from Republicans against Trump who did come to their senses and acknowledge what's going on. The vast majority of them are going to double down. And in a way, this is the magic of MAGA. This is the magical thinking of MAGA. You're, of course, never wrong if you can find a left-winger to blame it on. But in addition to that, Trump has sold them the idea that he is an everyman for the average person, even though the reality, of course, as we all know, is that he is very far from it. He doesn't really care about his voters. His policy priorities are what's good for my billionaire buddies. And he thinks that the coolest people are people even richer than he is, like Elon Musk, at least for now, till that implodes, and authoritarian strongmen type leaders from around the world. It's going to be a very painful I told you so this time around. The best gifts should really feel like they were picked out just for you, which is why I love Aura digital picture frames during the holidays, because you can give it to mom or grandpa. You can give them the same gift, but personalize it with their favorite pictures. I've given these to so many family members now. Sometimes I'll preload it with pictures of my daughter, or sometimes I'll preload it with different things, depends who I'm giving it to. It is a really great gift. Instead of, cufflinks, okay, fine. Socks. This is really great. The New York Times called Aura the best digital photo frame. Very easy to set up and connect. You add the photos, you add the videos, connects to your photo library on your phone. You upload the ones you want. And if you're giving it as a gift, you can personalize the frame with preloaded photos so it's ready when they hook it up. Save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames by using the promo code PACMAN at checkout. The link is in the description.